Hi guys, I have been messing around with the scheduling this morning and I think that I have completely messed it up to the point where none of you are in here. I did schedule a video to discuss the toolmark analysis that was meant to be this morning, but I actually decided not to go ahead with it for two reasons. One was that Rick Snay was doing a live at a similar time. Hey, Shibby, you found me. Sorry, I'm just explaining how I mixed up my timing. So, yeah, one of the reasons I decided not to do the gun and bullet one today was because Rick was going live as well, but also, secondly, because I still cannot get my head around the crazy Oberg testimony. I don't mean Oberg's crazy, but the testimony, my goodness, it is a minefield. And so I recorded the presentation last night and then realized I needed to fact check a little bit more. So I'm still working on it. I'm still going to add some more stuff to it and correct some of the reaching that I've done in my presentation. Sometimes I rely a little bit too much on AI to help me make sense of stuff, and it gets it wrong. And I don't always know that when it's about things that I'm not an expert in. So I know when it's screwing up psychology related stuff or even facts of the case, but I don't know when it's screwing up what it's telling me Oberg means by a particular point. So what I've done is I've gone back and I've read tried to read it and listen to it. There are people who've been reading out the transcripts, but goodness, the toolmark analysis is driving me nuts. It's certainly not an area that I find particularly interesting, but I think it's still an important thing to talk about in this space so that people who are new to the case, who don't know much about it, can get an understanding of why that evidence is so weak. Anyway, hello, everybody. Hello, Mimi. Hello, Nicole. Of course, Shippy is here. Thank you so much. I can see there's some other people lurking, so I'm sure there's some more of my buddies over there. Thank you for joining me, guys. So, today's video isn't going to be the presentation that I'd hoped. It's nothing fancy. It's actually so I just kind of made a decision to do something quickly to post something today, because otherwise I won't probably be able to get on until Friday. And I was like, I think it's time to have a video. So what I've done is I've touched up my ramblings in the car the other day. So as some of you know, I had planned to listen to some of the YouTube creators who believe Rick is guilty and look at basically debunking the myths. So I started with a particularly big creator. I won't name names today, but it was a recent video from a few months ago that I believe someone had actually posted on one of the Reddit groups about the facts that support Rick's conviction. And I got about 11 minutes in, and I had a lot to say. So I was driving back from my little mountain retreat and decided to just chat about all of the things that were irritating me about some of the statements that were made, and also to debunk the myths. So that's what I'm going to play for you guys today. Hey, Carol. Hey, Big Fish. Thank you guys for joining. So it's really me debunking a few of the myths. It's a lot of me ranting, I suppose, about how annoying it is when you hear people use what they call evidence that to me is such an overreach and a misinterpretation, and it's quite biased. So I'm sure some people think I'm biased too, but I think the difference, I'm going to sound a little bit hypocritical here, I guess, but no, the difference is that I do my research. So as I was mentioning earlier, for the people who've just hopped in, the reason I didn't put the toolmark analysis presentation up today was I realized that I'd still made some mistakes in it and that I was overstating certain points. I got confused in terms of the ammunition that was used. So I delete things when I know that I have made an error, or I correct them. And so I do feel like I'm not always going to get it right, and I'm going to continue to evolve my opinions, particularly around things that I have no understanding of at a base level. But the difference is I'm not confidently then going to go around stating that somebody's guilty and should be in jail for 130 years based on things that are not really factual or not evidence-based. Anyway, you can see there's some snark here again. I can't help it. But I'm going to play my ramblings in the car. Apologies for indicator noises and gravel noises and just the rawness of it all. But I think I hope it's entertaining for you guys.
Okay guys, I'm only about 11 minutes into one of the videos that I have said that I'm going to watch today. One of the videos from a YouTuber that believes that Rick Allen is guilty. I'm not going to name names because I feel a little bit guilty about posting people's direct Reddit posts or anything like that. I did that last video. It's not fair, and I don't want people to feel like I'm mocking them, but I am going to argue against points. And so yeah, I'm not going to name names here. I mean, I think most of us know some of the people on YouTube that believe that Rick Allen is guilty with a lot of conviction. So I'm watching a recent video where somebody's going through all of the facts that support the case against Richard Allen. Anyway, so I'm 11 minutes in and I've already gasped a few times. And rolled my eyes a few times too, because what's being stated as fact is not fact. It's stretching, it's overreaching. So here's just a few things that I've noticed, because I'm going to try and document it every, like, a little segment at a time, because otherwise I'll forget it all. But the first thing that was said was, that kind of triggered me, was that Rick Allen was obsessed with the trails, because he said sometimes he could go there twice a week. Now, my understanding, Delphi's a fairly small town, and the trails are actually a lovely walking spot, probably the main nature walking spot, but I don't know about that. I'm going to do some research and double check, but regardless, it's not that unusual. My understanding was at least one of the girls that testified indicated that she'd been there twice that week, I believe. And on top of that, there's Betsy Blair, who did her regular outing over there as well. So I kind of don't think that that's a fair assumption to make. They then used the photographs that they seized during the search warrant. Again, happy to put those on the screen. There's not very many of them, and I don't think that's odd. This was a local attraction, you know, in a sense, because it's a unique setting. It really is. I mean, the girls took photos on that bridge that day, as in the four girls and Abby and Libby, you know, the Snapchat photo. Like, people liked taking pictures of that bridge. So I don't think that's odd either. The photos were taken, I believe, by his wife. And he indicated he did used to cross the bridge and go there with his daughter. So the other point that was made was that he had his daughter's senior photos there. That was really odd as well, which again, is that odd? Because don't a lot of us take photos for special occasions in beautiful settings, or unusual settings? I mean, wedding photos, for example, people go to beaches, they go to mountains, they go to, I don't even know, farms, the wilderness. I mean, that's pretty commonplace. So if we think about, you know, what's a beautiful setting in Delphi, now I don't know, I've never been there, but I would imagine that this is one of them. So that was just a lot of overreaching. So myth number one, guys, that I've debunked is that Rick Allen was obsessed with the trails. I don't know that that would be considered obsessed with the trails. I don't actually know that anyone could be obsessed with trails, because most of us would just walk there when we feel like it, and that could actually be quite regular if that's one of the main areas that we walk in our local area. So, for example, I mean, people could say I'm obsessed with the park next to my house. Well, not really, because I walk my dog there, I take my kids there, and if I'm doing exercise, I naturally will walk there. And I mean, I'm not a big walker or hiker, so I can't really talk to this or speak to this, but I know that, you know, there are particular parks in my area that people would go to walk on a regular basis, and understandably, because they're a nice location. So anyway, sorry, I'm driving, so I apologize for the noises in the background, but that's myth number one. Myth number two that came up while I was listening to this video was, to do with the car. So one of the facts this person said that law enforcement had against Bridge Guy prior to them looking at Rick Allen was that this person was driving a dark hatchback with light that showed through the rims. Now, first of all, why was that never mentioned for 5 years if that was one of the facts they had about Bridge Guy? Second of all, we've all seen the photo of the car pictures, the Hoosier Harvester ones that he's obviously referring to, and they are the most ridiculous pictures ever. They are blurry, they are pixelated, you cannot see light showing through the rims of that vehicle. Now there's a whole lot of issues with the Hoosier Harvester footage. I've covered that all in another video and presentation. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I don't trust those photos as being a very good proof of anyone's car in particular. All it shows is a car going past. That car is, you know, even if we're to assume that that car really did go past at that time, and I'm not sure about that, to be honest. I just don't think that car looks natural, but let's assume that the most simplest conclusion is that that is a car that goes past at that time. However, really importantly, it is so blurred that you cannot identify it, and the pictures of that car are somehow more blurred and pixelated and problematic than the pictures of Betsy Blair and Kelsey German and Sarah Carbar's cars. Why? This is supposedly the suspect vehicle that we're identifying as Rick Allen's vehicle. I mean, I go to this point over and over and over again because it is so important, and it was the point that really sold me on Rick Allen's innocence, because it was a kind of niggling point. I'd already kind of felt that Rick Allen was innocent based on the psychological information and just the general kind of gist of everything, but this was the one point that I did struggle with. But once I looked at those photos closely, yeah, there are issues. So myth number 2, that law enforcement were looking for somebody with a black hatchback with light shining through the rims, and that car, 2 myths rather than 1, is Rick Allen's car. So that's 2 of them. I'm trying to think if there's any others that I can come up with right now. Oh, yes. So the 3rd myth is that Rick Allen had substance abuse issues, and also that Rick Allen was a sex addict. Now, these are statements that he made in the context of his decompensation. He was unwell, very unwell at the time, probably beyond the point of psychosis even, really organic brain issues at that point. So I don't really think we can trust that, because he also said he killed his grandchildren that don't exist, and he was responsible for the World War or something. I mean, there's a lot of statements that he made that are clearly inaccurate. Westcott and Waller, I believe, would have probably, but definitely Westcott, and the prosecution would have had access to Rick Allen's previous medical files. We know that Westcott did. She refers to them in her report, and nowhere is there any mention of any addiction issues. The mention is purely of anxiety and depression. Now, I'm not going to say that it's unlikely that Rick would have used alcohol at times to cope with his problems. He probably did, so do a lot of people, but regardless, he was not listed as having a substance abuse disorder, and he was not listed as having any sort of sexual addiction. Now, if he did, I mean, he could have been an incredibly functional person with a high level of addiction, but again, it just doesn't seem to marry up with what we know of his relationship history and also his employment history. It just doesn't seem to be indicative of somebody who has a lot of addiction issues. So myth number 3, Rick Allen is a sex addict and has substance abuse issues, namely alcoholism. Okay, so that's just 3 in the first 10 minutes. No. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, the rest was just more speculative, and the person, I guess they weren't sort of saying it as facts, but one of the things that they hypothesized about the cleared tip is that maybe Doolan puts the cleared tip in the wrong pile of tips, in the cleared pile. I'm pretty sure in a double homicide, that's not what we do. That's not what you would do with tips. Like, it doesn't matter if you think they're cleared or not. You don't just pop them in a pile and then they just get filed away wherever Kathy Shank found them. And then, as I just said that, so that's myth number 3-ish. Myth number 4 is that Rick Allen did not want to meet at home or at the police station. He only wanted to meet in the car lot. I believe I heard at least one other witness, and that was Cheyenne Mill, who testified that she made her statement to police in a car, I believe in a car park too. My understanding from what I've heard is that they were overrun in the police station. It's a small police department, and so they were interviewing people in various different areas and places. So clearly not everybody was interviewed in that police station, because those interviews were all recorded over, remember? So probably good thing that nobody went and did their interview in there. Well, not nobody, but the Rick didn't. Not that it matters anyway, because we never know what's actually said in that interview. That's one of those exhibits that hasn't been released, and I think a lot of us may not trust the veracity of it, and even if it is. Anyway, I believe Rick says, he was out and about when Doolan called, and they arranged to meet there. That wasn't some suspicious decision to not be interviewed in his house or at the station. I mean, even if he didn't want to be interviewed at his house, I wouldn't blame him, because personally, I wouldn't really want police coming to my house. Most of us don't. Particularly not if the police department are, the Delphi Police Department and Indiana State Police. No offense or anything. Second thing that I was going to say was people refer to Occam's razor, which is this idea that the simplest explanation is most likely true. The problem with this is this situation is super complex, so trying to apply a very simple one-dimensional view doesn't help. Yes, the simplest explanation can certainly be true for a lot of things, but I think in a case like this, with this layer of complexity, or layers of complexity, that's taken the police department years and years to get to a somewhat conclusion that they think they have, that is really not rock solid, when you've got a large proportion of the public disagreeing with it. And I don't say that lightly. There is a lot of us out there. There are a lot of us who take the time to create content, let alone and follow people who create content, let alone all of the other passive observers. So no, Occam's razor doesn't actually apply in this case. Also because the simplest solution, which the people that use this to justify, is that Rick Allen did this crime. But Rick Allen has a psychological profile that does not meet any of the offender characteristics that we would expect in a crime like this. So it's actually highly implausible. So that's not a simple explanation. Now, if Rick Allen was a registered sex offender who walked on the trails and was known to do devious things, well then yes, sure, that would be Occam's razor. So Kegan Kline, Occam's razor, if we could place him on the trails that day. But Richard Allen, no, he does not have any of that history. And, I've spoken about that at length before, but it's always worth mentioning again. The other thing that they did is I forget the other one. The one that's about trusting the stupidity over deviance or malice. What's that one called? Anyway, it's another one that's quoted. Again, yeah, agreed. Like, if I forget something, that's probably just me being forgetful. But when we have a number of errors, and we have a number of such significant errors in a police department that they just have not demonstrated the utmost of integrity, and we also have statistics that suggest that a very significant proportion of wrongful convictions are the result of police tampering police wrongdoing, then again, I think that we can at least entertain the idea that this situation is quite possibly contains some level of malicious intention, and not just accidental stupidity from the police department. I actually think that the key figures in this investigation, I actually think that they've been fairly clever and sneaky to get away with this. So to be honest, I'll give them credit. They're not using their cleverness in a way that I would deem ethical or productive, but I mean, yeah, they've been quite sneaky and clever in how they've manipulated this case and manipulated Richard Allen, so I'll give them that. Anyway, yeah, so one last thing actually, I missed the point. Think about it. What was I saying just then? Yeah, so this YouTuber also indicated that we're conspiracy theorists, a lot of us, that we want to basically create content because we like things to be interesting and dramatic, and that we're conspiracy theorists. Well, I want to kind of debunk that on a number of levels. I mean, look, that person themselves is creating content for entertainment value purposes. This person hasn't just created one video on the case, they've created a substantial amount, and considering they reached their conclusion long ago that Richard Allen is a perpetrator, I'm not too sure why they would continue to make content if they already know that. But clearly they do enjoy it, and I think that's actually not an abnormal thing. A lot of us enjoy discussing true crime and discussing complexities and mysteries. It's not weird or unkind that we're doing that. It doesn't mean that we forget the true toll of this crime and the victims. But yeah, so first of all, I think that content creators, of course, do get an element of a validation and entertainment from creating content, as do the people who watch and participate in discussions with those content creators. But a lot of us also do it because we believe in the person or case that we're discussing. Now, for me, I have never created any content before about any crime cases. I'd be interested to, but I've never felt the strong urge to do it until this case, because I felt like my voice could actually help contextualize it, because psychology is such an integral theme of this case, as it is in a lot of these sorts of crime cases. But the reason that I won't stop isn't just because now it's giving me validation entertainment. I'm not going to lie, I'm aware of the fact that it does, but it's because this other perspective needs to be heard. Richard Allen needs to have fairness and justice. So yeah, I won't give up until that has been achieved. I literally won't. I can't imagine that I would stop creating content unless one of two things happens. Rick Allen is freed and gets justice, or two, somebody provides me some irrefutable evidence that suggests that he was actually involved in this crime. So until either of those things happen, I will continue to create content, because the outcome to me is unfair. But as some of my friends and colleagues, I was going to say colleagues, peers in this area have also said, I don't understand why the people who believe Rick Allen is guilty are so adamant to keep debunking and refuting the people who don't. I mean, they've got the outcome that they wanted. And I know they'll probably say, well, we kind of have to, because we have to kind of put out the spot fires of you innocence people. So yeah, maybe, I guess that could make sense. But I just think that it's also interesting the way that they do it, though. There is a lot of trolling. And look, this person who I'm watching right now, so far, 11 minutes in, there hasn't been trolling. There's been some reaching and misinterpretation and maybe some mischaracterization, but there hasn't been lots of mischaracterization of Rick Allen, but of the people on the other side of the fence in terms of his innocence. But that, yeah, he hasn't been trolling, and I'm not going to suggest that I'm not also debunking them. I mean, that's exactly what I'm doing now. but we haven't got the outcome we wanted. I mean, if we did, then I probably would drop it, even if people were still posting videos a year after he was released about him being guilty. I don't think that I would take the time to continue to create video after video debunking them. I really don't think so. I don't know. Watch this space. We'll see. I may still, occasionally, if I thought something was picking up traction, but no, I probably wouldn't. Yeah, so just going back to the conspiracy theory. So, I mean, conspiracy, I need to look this up, like what's the exact definition of this, but I don't believe that I am a conspiracy theorist. I know sometimes it can sound like that when I'm saying things like the Hoosier Harvest Store footage is doctored or tampered with, or maybe that car doesn't go past. I think sometimes it's easy to lean into things that sound more far-fetched in this case, because there is a lot of far-fetched stuff. But also, it's not a conspiracy to suggest that police tampering occurs, because it does. And as I said, there's a statistic, and I will look it up and before I post this video and insert it, but there is a statistic, I believe it's about 35% of wrongful convictions involved some level of police questionable police behaviour, let's call it. So it does happen, and this is not a worldwide study. This was specifically looking at what percentage of American, convictions in the United States of America, I suppose. The other point that was raised around the conspiracy idea of us being conspiracy theorists is that we're saying that everybody's involved, that the families, the FBI, the law enforcement, I don't know if they said the witnesses, but the prosecution, the prosecutor, the FBI, the governor. Well, no, I don't believe that. I don't know if other people do. I think actually in this case, the majority of us don't have an issue with the FBI. I don't think any of us have suggested that the FBI have operated in a way that was unfair. In fact, the majority of people who believe Rick Allen is innocent were welcoming of the FBI's perspective. It was the Indiana State Police that weren't, or the Unified Command, I suppose, the Delphi Police Department as well. So no, I don't have an issue with the FBI. When it comes to the Unified Command, yes, majority of us do have an issue, and I think that, again, we've got good reason given the amount of actual reported errors, let alone the things we haven't been able to find yet. I've already speculated on some of the other either errors or deliberate missteps that have been made with the geofencing data and the phone dumps and other verifications that they chose not to do or have buried potentially. Again, no, I sound conspiratorial, but yeah. And then when it comes to like the family and the witnesses, I do believe there are some people who target those individuals. I personally don't, though. I don't think the witnesses are lying. I think witnesses are going to have flawed statements and testimony because of memory being fallible, and I presented that research a number of times. So there's no part of me that doesn't believe any of the witnesses. I'm not somebody who has any conspiracy around people who have come forward and shared what they were doing, even if they've made errors in timing that seem illogical, because again, that is in line with memory research. And I also don't believe that there are I don't believe necessarily that the family have any involvement. I don't believe that key members that cared about their children and their sibling, I definitely don't. I don't believe that Kelsey is related to this. I don't believe that Anna Williams is related to this. I don't believe that Becky Patty is related to this. Obviously, there are some questionable actions in the past of some of the kind of extended family members or some of the immediate family members of the girls that, obviously would create some suspicion, not suspicion on them as being the perpetrators, but some suspicion that there may be information that isn't being they're not maybe being as transparent about. But yeah, I forgot to mention, I don't believe that Carrie Timmons, I really don't believe that any of the family are directly involved, and even the family members who have had some questionable actions in terms of their other criminal behaviour or alleged criminal behaviour, I don't believe that they directly would have been involved or wanted to cause harm to the girls. I don't get that sense. Whether some of their actions might have led the girls to be at risk, if their involvement in, I don't know, crime-related activity created a level of risk for the girls, I don't know either. That would just be pure speculation. But no, the majority of us are not conspiratorial about the family. The majority of us are not conspiratorial about the FBI. A lot of us are not conspiratorial about the witnesses. And so, majority of us actually, I don't think we're conspiratorial about everybody in the police department either. I know the officer that showed up in the documentary, and I forget his name because he doesn't show up a lot in the investigation, even though he was there in the early days. But he seemed to me to be fairly, not fairly, he really seemed like someone who was trustworthy and really did care about the investigation. Even the initial prosecutor as well, seemed to, again, sort of echo some of the suspicions that us in the general public have about what's happened here. So I'm not going to say I trust everybody in that list, but those people are not on the list. I think, they're not on the list of people, even with the judge, I don't believe that she's involved at all. I just believe that she just has a negative bias towards Rick and his defense team, but I don't believe that she's, deeply involved. I guess in terms of the Westville staff, again, hard to know. I do think that the Odin patches is problematic. Hard to know again, how much of the misbehavior is biased towards someone that they believe is guilty versus deliberate, maliciousness, knowing he wasn't guilty. I don't think that that's the case, other than a select few who I do believe, and this is all just speculation, but I do believe they know he's not guilty, and yet they have made sure that it looks as though he is. Okay. I think that's everything. So I'm going to go back to listening, and I will be back with you soon.
Okay, guys, I'm back. Can you hear me? I just realized I'm not showing on the screen. Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me speaking right now. They seem to have disappeared. Oh, good. You can hear me. That's good. I don't know why I'm not showing on the screen, but yeah, I don't know what you guys think about the involvement of other parties. So yeah, personally, I do believe that there is some dodgy stuff kind of going on in terms of some of the family members. I don't believe, though, that they did anything to deliberately cause harm to the girls, but whether their criminal activity was somewhat involved in a motive, I don't know. It's not probably the dominant theory that I have, but yeah, I don't know. I try not to speculate too much on what really happened because I don't know. There's not very much information. Most of the content that I do is around Rick himself and what I don't believe when it comes to Rick, and I guess the reason I focus on that is because I think that Rick is a victim of this case, and I think he's the one victim who potentially can have justice here. The girls have faced the worst outcome, and they may never get true justice because this investigation was failed, essentially. But I still hope that Rick can get justice and that he can have his freedom back in the future. And I understand there are people here in the chat and people potentially lurking and watching who think this is ridiculous. And I think I've just explained that in a very wordy way, why it isn't a conspiracy theory, why it isn't senseless stupidity that makes a lot of us, if not all of us, support Rick. There is actually some really valid explanations for why we support Richard Allen. You have people here with a lot of worldly life experience, with professional expertise, with long histories of looking at true crime. And we have looked into this, and we are in agreement that, first of all, the case against Richard Allen was not fair. But secondly, I think a lot of us are in agreement that it's highly likely that he is an innocent man. I'm certainly in that category. So, yeah, that was just my ramblings. I got quite emotive there because listening to somebody speak so confidently about the facts about why Rick Allen is guilty, and yet actually provide information that to me was not logical and not based on fact was really disheartening. But, I think one of the things that we know is that people's confidence isn't always matched by their actual understanding, knowledge, or capacity in various different arenas. We talked about that with memory as well. So I will continue to advocate for Rick, as I said, until either he is released or until somebody provides me with really irrefutable, clear evidence that he's guilty. So there have been times where I've come across things as I've been learning about this case where I've started to flip-flop, and I've looked deeper into those things. I have entertained creators who believe Rick Allen is guilty. I've never just quickly jumped into saying he is not guilty. It has taken months and months of looking at the evidence with a fine-tooth comb to get to a position where I am pretty much as certain as I can be that an innocent man is currently serving 130 years in a terrible situation for a crime that he didn't commit. A man who's already been tortured, who's already sustained so much damage to his health, his mental health. So I will be here, guys, for as long as it takes. I'm hoping that it doesn't take, decades. But if it does, you'll see old Nana Amy opening up her live streams and chatting with you guys, because I don't think I'm going to give up on this. And no, I definitely will not give up on this. I won't, because imagine if that were you or I or any of us in that situation. Wouldn't you want there to be people who are behind you and supporting you? Somebody like Rick needs people to have a voice for him. So on that note, I have started to work on a website. The reason that I thought I should do a website was because I have all these presentations and they're all just these random Canva links, and I get people asking for them and then I have to go back and find the link. And so I thought that it would be good to have a website. Now, I know there are a couple of sites already dedicated to this case. We probably all know that All Eyes on Delphi has a wonderful resource that has so much of the official information, the transcripts, the exhibits. There's so much. It's a massive big Google Drive. It's where I've really managed to access so much information on this case that's helped me to create the content that I create. But what will be different, I suppose, about the website that I don't even know what word I was going to say then, the relationship. That's weird. But anyway, what will be different about the website that I'm creating, which I'm going to pop up on the screen in a minute, is that it's not going to show the exhibits and the transcripts, but it's going to be the presentations that I make that kind of synthesize and integrate all of the information, kind of like a resource where you're kind of giving people who come into the case and who don't know very much about it the bare bones facts, the important stuff, so that they don't have to go through 80 plus pages of Melissa Oberg's testimony, because that absolutely it took its toll on my very very tired brain last night. So what I'm trying to do is to bring that information into a format that's a little bit more digestible. Because that's what I need in order to make sense of it. And so because I've already done some of that, because I've been so interested in this case and wanted to know more and deep dived it, I may as well provide that information to other people as well. So that's what the site's going to look like. Skinny, I'm glad you like listening to my rambling. I can ramble for a long time. I'm definitely a big rambler. And sometimes the more you think about what you're saying, the more that you kind of go off on a zillion different tangents and try to use words that don't make sense. And anyway, let me pull up the website. So it isn't live. I mean, technically it is, but I'm not going to provide you guys with it yet because I'm still working on it. But this is what it's going to look like. There we go. Okay, so this is the website. Like, I am not a pro with this stuff. Like, it's taken me ages to make it look even half decent, and still it's nothing special. I'm not a design person. The only thing I'm good at designing is my garden, if I don't kill my plants. So this is the site. It's Richard Allen Justice Project. I won't give you, like I said, the link yet until it's completed, but it's basically going to have links to my YouTube, links to the Reddit group, but also, more importantly, and I've just realized it's not on here, but it should be. Oh, it's probably because I haven't opened it full screen. No, still not on here. Okay, so documents is actually going to be presentations. So that will have the presentations that I've done so far. So the one on geofencing, the one on destroyed evidence, the one on toolmark analysis will come up soon. The psychological stuff, I'll pop my report on there because I'm not hiding that report, contrary to what some people say. I'll be popping all of that information on there. So it's all in this one space. And I think that that's going to be a little bit easier to access because people who follow me otherwise, I post bits and pieces everywhere and I talk a lot, and sometimes it can be hard to follow the train of where I'm at. So this will really have the condensed kind of bare bones information. If people want to refer to it, if they want to use it for themselves, if they want to provide me content, I'm happy to add that too. And it will obviously link to other reputable sources as well. So there will be links to All Eyes on Delphi. I hope that she doesn't mind me doing that, but I think that makes sense because that is, the library of all the documents. So it's kind of this one-stop shop for people to look at and to find the information that they need to understand the case against Rick Allen. Sometimes when I show my friends stuff about it, they're really interested in knowing more of the detail. But again, they're not going to go and read transcripts. They're not going to watch 4-hour live streams. And so this is for those people that want something that they can browse at their own leisure and, have that information there. And obviously, like, people who want more information, who want to hear me ramble through it all, they can come onto the YouTube videos. I will probably at some stage try to record videos that are a little bit more just the information and a bit less chat as well, because I think that, again, will attract a different crew. Not my buddies here that like listening to me ramble and chat, but, the people that just want to get to the facts. And that's what those presentations are about. So, I'm working on it slowly in the background between other tasks. I'm passionate about it. I will get it done, but I'm also a perfectionist. So I'm constantly looking at it and trying to make it look better. Hi, Diana. Full attention now. I'm going to finish up soon though, but I'm going to be back here later in the week. I will present the toolmark stuff. I think I've finally got my head around it all. I was just thinking, the presentations that I'm doing, I feel like that's the sort of stuff that if I were a jury member I would need. Like, I would need somebody to condense it all down to the facts, because I mean, if I were in the court listening to that testimony around the tool mark analysis, there is no way that I could have followed all of that. So yeah, I just think that we need material that is dot points and that has, you know, the main points. Well, I mean, that's just repetition. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so I'm recording the second part of the psych analysis tonight with my buddies. And then Diana and I are going to try and tee up a time to watch those live with you guys. And then we can get Diana's commentary too. So we'll add a fourth psychologist commentary. And I would not be surprised if all four of us are pretty much on the same page, because so far, hearing my colleagues' perspectives on Rick, they've really only watched the interrogation videos and heard the background information about him and the case, and they're already very much aligned with what I think, which is really heartening. It's nice to know that I'm on the right track, particularly after listening to other psychologists' ideas around Rick Allen and not agreeing with them. And I know, Diana, you don't agree either with some of the other opinions you've seen in terms of psychologists online. Anyway, was so good to see all of you guys today. I'm feeling a little bit scattered, so I may finish up right now. I hope you enjoyed the first lot of Mythbusters. I will put them into a series that's a little bit easier to digest as well over time. Yes, Diana. I re-listened to that this last weekend, and oh my goodness, I nearly fell out of my chair. Well, actually, no, I was laying in bed, so I didn't fall out of anywhere. But yeah, hearing about some of the misinterpretations of testing and psychosis, yeah, it was definitely very concerning. So yeah, the Mythbusters series will continue. Today was just me doing a bit of an impromptu, put the audio in. But what I will do moving forward is I will try to have more of the presentation style for the myths as well, because again, we want people who don't know about Rick Allen and the Delphi case to be able to look at it and get the information easily. So yeah, I'll probably post some things will be posted a few times, because I will do a live where I'm just chatting with you guys, and then I will probably do a more formal video. I mean, not formal, not super formal, but a bit more formal for the people who want to watch and get the information really clearly visually as well. Anyway, have a great day, guys, or great night for you guys. Great day for me. I'm going to head off and get myself some lunch. Lovely to see all of you. I really appreciate you. You guys have got me to so many subscribers and likes, and I am just so indebted to all of you guys. So thank you so much, and take care. Bye.